It sits quietly in the East River, just off the runways of LaGuardia Airport, a strip of land most New Yorkers never see and rarely think about. From the air, Rikers Island looks like an ordinary cluster of buildings, sterile, gray, almost dull. But step closer, and you can feel it, the weight, the silence, the sorrow. Rikers Island isn't just a jail. It's a world that lives just beyond the city's conscience, a place built to hold the accused, but where the line between justice and punishment has long since vanished. Every year, thousands of men and women are ferried across that narrow bridge that connects Queens to Rikers, many still waiting for their day in court. They arrive in orange jumpsuits, clutching the little dignity they have left. Some are there for days, others for years. Most never imagine how much of themselves they'll lose before they leave. In the 1930s, when it was built, Rikers was supposed to represent progress, a modern facility meant to replace the filth and corruption of the old city jails. Politicians promised rehabilitation, clean cells, a humane environment. But over the decades, those promises crumbled like the walls that now hold the place together. By the 1980s, Rikers had become something else entirely, a city within a city, ruled by fear, neglect, and bureaucracy. Guards overwhelmed, inmates overcrowded, corruption thriving in the cracks of a system that no longer pretended to fix anything. It's said that Rikers doesn't destroy hope in a single blow. It drains it slowly, like a slow leak in a pipe, unnoticed until the whole structure collapses. Take the story of Khalif Browder, 16 years old, accused of stealing a backpack. No conviction, just an accusation. He was sent to Rikers to await trial, a trial that never came. For 3 long years, Khalif lived in a cell smaller than most closets. 2 of those years were spent in solitary confinement. No window to the world. No human touch. Just silence, steel, and the echo of his own heartbeat. He was beaten by inmates. Beaten by officers. Forgotten by the courts. When he was finally released, the damage had already been done. Khalif tried to rebuild, but Rikers followed him home. In his sleep, in his memories, in his silence. 2 years later, he took his own life. And yet, even his death wasn't enough to bring real change. Every few years, headlines scream, "Close Rikers." Every few years, city leaders promise reform, new facilities, better conditions. But the stories keep coming, of inmates left untreated, guards turning a blind eye, people waiting years for trials that never begin. Rikers isn't just a place, it's a symptom, a reflection of a justice system stretched to its limits, where poverty, mental illness, and race collide in a web no one can untangle. But behind every statistic is a human being. A mother who hasn't seen her son in months, a teenager whose laughter has turned into a whisper, a man who swears he's innocent but can't afford bail. Each of them watches time dissolve, day by day, inside walls that were supposed to hold them only briefly. At night, when the city lights shimmer on the East River, Rikers sits in the dark, its amber floodlights flickering over concrete and razor wire. From the sky, it almost looks peaceful, but inside, the air feels heavy, thick with exhaustion and fear. Officers doing double shifts just to survive. Inmates forming uneasy alliances just to make it through the week. Everyone, guard and prisoner alike, trapped in a place that feeds on despair. And yet, there's still a spark of something human inside those walls. A chaplain who still prays for the forgotten. An officer who sneaks extra meals to those who haven't eaten. A volunteer who reads poetry through the bars. Tiny fragments of kindness that survive, somehow, in a place built to crush the soul. That's what makes Rikers so haunting. It's not just the violence or the fear. It's that even here, among the chaos and corruption, humanity refuses to die completely. It just fades slowly. This is the island most people will never see. This is Rikers, where hope doesn't vanish overnight. It dies quietly, day after day. And as the next bus crosses that narrow bridge, another soul joins the cycle, believing they'll leave soon, not knowing that time at Rikers isn't measured in days, but in the slow decay of hope. The camera fades in from darkness. The faint hum of flickering fluorescent lights echoes through the narrow, damp corridors of Rikers Island. The air feels heavy, not just with humidity, but with decades of forgotten cries. The walls, once painted white, now wear a thick coat of rust and decay. a physical record of time and neglect. A narrator's voice emerges, calm but haunting. Inside Rikers, silence isn't peace, it's survival. We follow a slow-motion shot of inmates in orange jumpsuits walking in a line, their eyes avoiding the camera. Each face tells a story: fear, fatigue, resignation. Some whisper prayers under their breath. Others just stare blankly into nothing. The narrator continues. Rikers Island wasn't built to hold dreams. It was built to contain despair. And over the years, that despair became its heartbeat. Cut to archival footage, reports of overcrowded cells, broken toilets, and guards struggling to maintain order. News anchors' voices overlap in a chilling symphony of outrage. Inmate found dead after medical neglect, guards accused of excessive force, suicide watch ignored. Then the frame freezes on one headline. The system failed again. We transition to a testimony. A former inmate, voice distorted for privacy, speaks. You stop being a person in there. You're just a number, a body in a cage. If you're sick, you pray to survive. If you cry, you hope no one hears, because weakness is a target. The music deepens, low strings and distant metallic clangs. The narrator adds, for many inside Rikers, justice isn't delayed, it's erased. Some await trial for years, never convicted, yet serving silent sentences in a place that chews away their humanity one day at a time. Cut to a cell, dimly lit, graffiti covered, a single mattress stained and torn. A Bible sits open on the floor, its pages water-damaged and half-burnt. We hear another voice, this time from a correctional officer, off-screen. We're understaffed, underpaid, and scared. But what choice do we have? Rikers is its own world. You don't control it, it controls you. The narrative zooms out. Aerial footage shows the island surrounded by cold, dark waters of the East River. It's both close to Manhattan and yet worlds away, a physical symbol of society's moral contradiction. The narrator. Across the water, the city skyline glows, the same city that promises freedom, opportunity, and justice. Yet just a few miles away, Rikers stands as its shadow, the part of America it doesn't want to see. A beat of silence. Then, we meet Jerome Taylor, a young man from Brooklyn, arrested for a minor offense and awaiting trial. His story unfolds in brief, tense monologues. They said I'd be out in a few weeks. That was 3 years ago. I stopped counting after the second Christmas. You lose track of time when every day looks the same. Flashbacks show him in the intake area, holding a brown paper bag with his belongings, shoelaces, a family photo, a Bible. Guards search him roughly. Another inmate shouts in the background. Cut to a dim light flickering above his bunk. He's writing a letter to his mother. The voiceover reads it aloud. Ma, don't worry about me. I'm okay. Just pray I make it out before the system forgets I'm still here. The camera lingers on his face, emotionless, drained, but his eyes betray a faint spark of hope. Then, a journalist's voice cuts in. In Rikers, over 80% of inmates haven't been convicted of a crime. They're just waiting, trapped in a place designed to break the mind before any verdict is read. The screen flashes through mugshots and case files, each representing a human story buried under bureaucracy. We return to the narrator. What happens when a system meant to deliver justice becomes the source of suffering itself? What happens when punishment comes before proof? A montage follows, guards yelling orders, inmates scrubbing floors, a psychiatrist taking notes as another inmate stares silently at the wall. Psychological collapse is common here. Rikers isn't just a prison, it's a pressure cooker. Depression, paranoia, self-harm. These aren't statistics, they're daily realities. The background hum of the prison crescendos, metal doors slamming, distant screams, radios crackling. The narrator continues softly. There's no quiet in Rikers, only moments where the noise hides. And in those moments, hope whispers, but rarely survives. We end the chapter on a haunting visual. Jerome sitting by his barred window, the faint glow of Manhattan in the distance. He looks out and whispers to himself. They say justice is blind. But here, it feels deaf too. The screen fades to black with text appearing slowly. The screen opens with a low, haunting hum, the sound of the East River winds howling across the barbed fences of Rikers Island. The morning fog rolls in, blanketing the prison yard like a ghost that refuses to leave. The city skyline glitters faintly in the distance, but from here, it feels like another universe. They call it a correctional facility. But for many, Rikers isn't a place of correction. It's a waiting room between life and oblivion. The camera pans through the cracked pavement of the yard, boots splashing through puddles of stagnant water. Guards shout orders, but even their voices sound tired, worn out from years of watching the same suffering repeat itself. We see Jerome Taylor again, older now, his eyes dulled by time. He stands near the fence, staring out across the water. His orange uniform has faded, his posture slouched. I used to dream of freedom, his voice narrates. Now, I just dream of silence. Not the kind you get when the lights go out. Real silence. The kind that means peace. Cut to footage of the Rikers Island infirmary. The air is thick with disinfectant and despair. Nurses move like ghosts, calm but expressionless. An inmate lies on a stretcher, motionless. Another one coughs in the corner. Between 2015 and 2023, dozens of inmates died inside Rikers. Some from violence, some from neglect, others from hopelessness. We hear a real clip from a city council hearing. Officials arguing over reform, voices overlapping. We're addressing the crisis. We're investing in rehabilitation. The situation is improving. Then silence. Cut back to the island. Nothing has changed. Promises come easy, the narrator says softly. But for those trapped behind the razor wire, promises don't stop the screams at night. The screen fades into a testimony. A correctional officer named Mendez, his face shadowed. You can feel the anger in the walls, he says. It's not just the inmates, it's the staff too. We're all prisoners here, just in different uniforms. His voice trembles slightly, as though the weight of years finally caught up with him. We cut to the chapel inside Rikers, dimly lit, a few flickering candles, a cracked cross on the wall. A small group of inmates sit quietly as a volunteer preacher speaks about forgiveness and hope. Even in darkness, God is present, the preacher says. Jerome looks up, his eyes glassy, his hands trembling. But how do you find God? He whispers. In a place that kills hope every day? The narrator breaks in gently. For years, religious ministries, activists, and former inmates have fought to reform Rikers. But every attempt feels like a bandage on a wound that keeps reopening. The camera shifts to a protest in Manhattan. People chanting, holding signs, shut down Rikers. Justice delayed is justice denied. Police barricades line the streets. The chants echo through skyscrapers like the ghosts of the forgotten. The world began to listen, the narrator says, but Rikers doesn't let go easily. It's not just a place, it's a symptom, a reflection of everything broken in the justice system. Cut to archival courtroom footage. A judge slams a gavel, a defendant cries. Some never make it to trial. Others walk free years later, broken in spirit. But all of them carry Rikers with them, long after they leave the island. We return to Jerome's story, now sitting across from a young journalist in a visitation room. The air hums with tension. What's the worst part? She asks softly. The waiting, Jerome says after a pause. The waiting eats you alive. You start counting time by the sound of doors closing. You forget your own voice. He looks into the glass, separating them. His reflection blurs with hers. You ever seen a man lose hope? He asks. No, she answers. Then you've never been to Rikers. The music swells, low strings, a heartbeat rhythm underneath. A prison officer pacing through an empty corridor. A young inmate crying quietly in the shower. The lights flickering in solitary confinement. An officer dropping his badge on a desk and walking out for the last time. The narrator's voice grows heavier. Every brick of Rikers was laid with good intentions to bring justice, order, rehabilitation. But intentions don't survive corruption. They rot, just like the walls. We move to 2024 with footage of the city's debate about closing Rikers. Plans, committees, proposals, all tangled in bureaucracy. They promised to close it by 2027, the narrator says. But promises are wind on the East River. They come and go. The next scene is poetic, aerial footage of Rikers at sunset. The island glows gold and teal under the fading light. The barbed wires shimmer, almost beautiful, but it's a beauty born of pain. From above, Rikers looks small, but the pain it holds could drown a city. Then we see Jerome again, older, released, walking across the bridge connecting the island to Queens. A duffel bag in one hand, a crumpled release paper in the other. They call it freedom, he narrates. But you don't walk out clean. You carry the island with you. Every sound, every scream, it follows. He stops, looks back at the island one last time. His face hardens, then softens into something close to peace. I lost years in there, but I didn't lose my soul. Not yet. Cut to the narrator, softly concluding. Rikers Island isn't just a prison. It's a mirror, showing us what happens when justice forgets humanity. The question isn't when Rikers will close. The question is, will we ever learn? The screen fades to black. Then text appears in white, dedicated to all those who never made it out. If stories like this matter to you, the narrator says gently, subscribe, share, and keep their voices alive. Because silence is how places like Rikers survive, and your voice is how we end it. Fade out. End of documentary.